Good morning. It is time to skip the BS. It's time for Undisputed. It's time to talk Dallas. No, not them. Dallas Mavericks, the NBA's hottest team. Sudden threats to, dare I say, win the West? We will talk Dallas Cowboys and their do-nothing owner in just a few minutes here on the show. We will debate LeBron raving about his iconic Game 7 chase-down block. And we will talk about Jake Paul saying Mike Tyson won't be able to bite his ear off if Paul knocks Tyson's teeth out. I like that line. That was clever. And we will very soon on today's show talk about why LeBron is having a career year from three, biometrics. And Russell Westbrook saying he's the NBA's best bench player. And he's proud of that? Really? And Calipari calling the Hogs for the first time. Will they answer? But first up, I say good morning to Keyshawn Johnson and Paul Pierce. How are you, gentlemen? Here we go. Here we go. And we dive into Luka and Kyrie and a Mavericks team that pretty much dominated the Heat in Miami last night, and they were playing back-to-back, both teams. But Mavericks won for the 16th time in their last 18 games. That's pretty good, 16 out of 18. So, Paul, Keyshawn doesn't think the Mavs really have much of a shot against the Clippers in their first-round playoff matchup, which is already set. Are you seeing a team in the Mavericks that will go home early or later in the playoffs?
I think they could beat the Clippers.
I do too.
I think we're watching the best scoring duel in NBA history.
I agree.
I mean, when you see what Luka's doing, we already know who Kyrie is, probably the greatest one-on-one player. If you have a one-on-one competition, I'm taking Kyrie. and so, yeah, I know the Clippers beat them a couple years ago. They didn't have Kyrie. But since All-Star break, they've been one of the best defensive teams.
They have.
Ranking opponents' field goal 8th. Mm-hmm. They're scoring better. I mean, they have all the ingredients of a team that can get to the finals. And you have a top-5 player MVP candidate, arguably the best player in the league. You have experience, Kyrie's championship experience. And so I do believe the Mavs have a shot.
Yeah.
If I have to choose between them and the Clippers, I'm taking them right now because I don't know. It's uncertainty of Kawhi right now.
Yeah.
We just know the flame-outs of players in the playoffs that just don't come up big. You know, there's times where we just...
Harden.
James Harden, we've seen that from him.
How many George.
So I got more faith in a Luka-led and Kyrie-led team.
Yep.
So they got the ingredients, Skip, to get to the finals, I believe. They got the ingredients, but can they keep it together and play consistent enough? Because nobody's going to stop them. They got to be able to defend at a high level in the playoffs if they're going to go far. But as far as getting out the first round and beating the Clippers, I think they will.
They got an opportunity and a chance, especially if Paul George is not at full strength. I mean, Kawhi Leonard? Kawhi Leonard's not at full strength. I give him an opportunity. But if the Clippers' deck is stacked and they got all their stars aligned, they're not going to beat them. And I know 2020, 2021, different teams, though.
Very different.
Yeah, it was different teams. Luka was there. He's a long man standing. But for the most part, those teams are over with.
Especially Dallas is way different.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's a different situation.
Different identity.
When we talk about flaming out for James Harden, because that's going to come up, he doesn't play big in the playoffs. We're talking about the first round. We're not talking about the second, the third.
No, I mean, that's fair.
The finals.
I got it.
We're talking about the first round. And when you look at his first round statistics and you look at what he's been able to do in the first round of the playoffs, he's James Harden. He's been James Harden. So I don't get all spooked about whether or not he's going to show up. His role is different now.
Yeah, that's true.
His role is different. Westbrook's role is different. We're going to talk about that later on.
We are.
And Paul George has carried this team a couple years ago, the Clippers, not this constructed team, but the Clippers minus Kawhi Leonard. He took them all the way to the Western Conference Finals.
3 years. He was,
so he has the ability.
He was outstanding.
He has the ability to be able to do that. Now, look, I know that the Mavs have gotten slightly better after All-Star break. Okay. First of all, look at the opponents that they were playing. They were not playing no juggernauts in these 16 or 18 games that they've won. There's really not any. I mean, you could maybe cherry pick, hand pick 3-4 good teams in that mix, but for the most part, it was layups. It was teams that was on the borderline of play-in, teams that were not making the playoffs. Those are the type of teams that defense increased against. Now you're going up against a high-octane offense that can score. You got three dudes, if healthy, now this is all about an if, that can score and match point for point. You say, okay, well, you can cancel whatever, Luka out with Paul George, and you can cancel Kyrie out with Kawhi. But now you still got X factors. You got a high-octane Speedy Gonzalez and Westbrook that can give you a whole bunch off the floor. And then on top of that, you still got to account for James Harden. And defensively, who you going to stop? That's my whole thing. Who you going to stop defensively? They have a shot. Everybody has a shot. I just don't think I think they come up short.
I think this will be the most exciting first round, though.
I am so with you. I can't wait. But
More
Keyshawn,
exciting than the Lakers and the Nuggets if we get there?
But we're just talking about it's as exciting a first round as you can ever remember. I mean, every matchup all the way through the play-in is unbelievable.
You got star power in this.
Yeah.
I mean, you got elite scoring in this. I'm talking about James Harden. I mean, at his best, Kawhi, Paul George, Luka.
Stacked.
Kyrie. I mean, you got 5 of the greatest scorers in one series.
Now that you just said that, I wonder what the average scoring
at their peak. If you just look at all of them at their peak of scoring.
28 points a game at their peak.
All right, Keyshawn, I think you've been watching Dallas. I don't think you've been seeing what you should see.
Okay.
Something has changed dramatically there since they added P.J. Washington and Daniel Gafford at the trade deadline to the starting lineup. And by the way, that kid out of Duke who's 7 feet 1 inches tall, Derek Lively, was giving them some hustle and muscle for a while, and he's been out with a knee issue. And I'm not sure if he's back for the playoffs, but maybe. But it doesn't matter at this moment because what they did last night to what is still a very dangerous Miami team at home, and I know both teams were back-to-back, but I look up early on, and Dallas is ahead by 25 at Miami. It's hard to do because they're a proud bunch, man, especially at home. Miami, going into that game, was averaging at home 112 points a game. They managed to score 92 points last night. That's 20 points below their home average. You got to see what you're seeing. You got to believe what you're seeing because that means Dallas is playing at least a semblance of defense. And I told you yesterday, the stat over the last 18 games is Dallas is holding its opponents to 44% shooting. That's number 1 in the NBA over the last 18 games. And if you want to give me nobodies that they're playing, give me nobodies. But it's still the NBA.
Where would Miami be if they was in the West?
Where would they be?
Out of the play-in.
Out of the play-in.
I don't know, but I wouldn't mess with
out of the skip.
Hey,
the guy just told me to my left, out of the play-in.
Yeah, but
you're telling me about the Miami team where Jimmy Buckets had 12 points. He only shot 8 times.
Okay.
They'll be right at the cusp.
Maybe that's because of some defense. So I'm seeing a Luka and a Kyrie who made peace with each other. And I don't know. It took a long time because I'm going to remind you, last year, this team won 38 games and missed the playoffs. Now they're a 50-win team, which should at least put Luka in the MVP conversation. And if you want to discount him because he's got that sidekick who sometimes is the one to his 1A on any given night.
Everybody got a sidekick.
Okay, but this is the sidekick to me. They have made some kind of connection where after on Sunday night, they stormed back from 20 down to beat Houston, albeit just Houston. But they did that. They scored 148 points, and they left the court arm in arm, if we can see this. And
they look like they're having fun.
Yeah, Jason Kidd's brought this up a couple times because he thought that was real. You can laugh at it and say it's all for show, but we haven't seen that before. I didn't see it any last year because there was no way they're doing that last year because they were wary of each other. They were eyeing each other in the fourth quarter. Is it your turn or my turn? And all of a sudden, they have figured out how to play together and to respect each other and to vibe off each other. And when they're doing that, they are as dangerous as it gets. Now, if you allow me to, I got to talk about Daniel Gafford because nobody else is talking about him. You realize in the month of March, he went on a roll and made 33 straight field goals in NBA games. It's hard to do to make 33 in a row because he was just one short of the record of Wilt, 34 in a row. As we speak, he's now made 22 in a row more. So he's gone from 33 in a row in March, and now he's on a streak where last night he was 6 out of 6. That boosted him up to 22 in a row. Field goals made. He is running away with the percentage from the field this year. He's 73% of his shots he's made from the field. Again, they acquired him at the trade deadline. He'd bounced around, been a bit of a journeyman, but even for his career, he shoots 71%. So Luka trusts him. Luka will give him shots that last year Luka wouldn't give anybody. And P.J. Washington has brought them a veteran banger presence. He just knows how to play basketball, and he plays grown man basketball. He plays strong, and all of a sudden those two have solidified the starting lineup. And then you got Kleber coming off the bench with Dante Exum and Tim Hardaway Jr. and Josh Green and maybe Lively, and all of a sudden they're looking like a 10-deep team that is going to be a threat to win the West. If they keep playing at this level, it's hard to beat them when they're playing defense like they're playing defense. And maybe it's just a semblance of defense, but they used to play no defense. Now it's clear they're taking pride in that end of the floor. I just think they're legit as they can be because Luka looks like he's grown up before your very eyes. Last year, he was a pouter. He was a whiner. He was a diva. He'd sulk. He'd okay, you got Kyrie, let him close the games. And now it looks like he's growing up. It looks like, remember, he just turned 25 years of age a month ago, so he's just a month into his 25th year on this planet, and he looks like a veteran to me now. He plays veteran basketball. And Paul, I don't know if you've ever seen anything like him. He actually has an old man's game to me.